Hello and welcome back to the Purposeful Shift, a gentle space for women who might be feeling that quiet nudge that something in their life might be ready for change. I'm your host, Emma Bryant, and today we're calling out the shoulds, the ones that have kept us stuck, small, and second-guessing ourselves for way too long. If you've been listening for a few episodes now, you will know that we've been exploring ideas around purpose, reflection, and the subtle signs that our lives might be calling us towards something new. In today's episode, we'll be talking about something that sits beneath many of the decisions we make: success. We will explore what success really means when you strip away the pressure, perfectionism, and people-pleasing, and how to write your own version of success that feels truly aligned to you and your goals in life. So let's start with those shoulds. What are the shoulds that we have been running quietly in the background of our lives? You might recognise some of these. I should have a clear career plan by now. I should be earning a certain amount of money. I should have everything figured out. I should have started earlier. I should be further ahead. I should be more successful. These little sentences can seem harmless, but they're incredibly powerful because the word should carries judgment. And that's judgment that we place on ourselves and sometimes on others as well. It implies that there is a correct path, a right way, a correct timeline, a correct version of success, and that if we're not following that path, we're somehow getting it wrong. And if we're getting it wrong, then maybe we aren't successful, or we aren't as successful as we thought we would be, or we thought we should be. But it's important to remember that many of those shoulds probably didn't originate from within us. They've likely been absorbed over time. So from society, from our family's expectations of us, from school systems that reward certain kinds of achievement like exams, from workplaces that prioritise status and productivity, and more recently from social media, of course, where our perceptions of success might be so largely influenced by somebody else's highlight reel or their perfectly curated life, that version of themselves and their life that they want you to see. But even when we know logically that we're only seeing a tiny snapshot of somebody else's reality, even when we tell ourselves that they are only showing us the best bits, the good bits, the edited, the filtered bits, not all of the other day-to-day not so good stuff, it still creates this quiet internal pressure inside of us. And that can then create a sense that we should somehow be doing something more, achieving more, becoming more. And if you are somebody who's approaching midlife, like many of the women who I know listen to this podcast, those thoughts can start to get even louder because we will then start to bring our age into the equation. So suddenly we might be thinking things like, I should have it all figured out by now. I should be settled by my age. I should have a solid career by now. I should have a decent pension. I should be successful. But I want to ask you to consider something. What if those expectations were never really yours in the first place? What if those expectations that you have been living are somebody else's expectations? Living by somebody else's definition of success comes at a cost. Sometimes that cost shows up as burnout, and maybe you've been there or you've been close to burnout. I know I've been close, and it's been a dark place, a place where you avoid everything that's good for you and you start to retreat from life. You become this shadow version of you, and this shadow version of the version of you that you actually dream of becoming. Perhaps you spent years working incredibly hard, chasing goals that looked impressive on paper, only to find that when you've actually reached them, they didn't feel fulfilling to you. Perhaps it's a new job, a better title, a more expensive car, a bigger house. These were the things that I was conditioned to aspire for as a child growing up in the 80s and 90s. These were my goals. These were all of the things that I thought I should want, that I should want. And I did for a long time, and sometimes I still do. But the cost of living by someone else's shoulds can also show up as resentment. Perhaps you realise that you've been following a path that made sense to everybody else, but never really felt right to you. But you did it anyway because that's what society told you that you should do. And I'm sure You know of people who, for example, have started a university course which followed their parents' profession. And for some of those people, it was the right choice for them. It was what they wanted to do. But for others, it wasn't really what they wanted to do. They felt obliged to take that journey because of their parents. They felt that they should. Sometimes following someone else's shoulds shows up as disconnection from ourselves. So we might lose sight of what we actually enjoy, what we value, and what energizes us. And if you've listened to my earlier episodes, you might remember the question that my coach Christine asked me right back at the very beginning. And it was, who is Emma? And I probably know who I thought Emma should be. And perhaps I could have given Christine an answer that was based on those shoulds. So, for example, Emma should be a caring and loving mother and wife. Emma should be a homemaker. Emma should be healthy and well for her children. But that's not how I would naturally describe myself. Not if I was following my heart and exploring who I wanted to be without those societal influences or pressures to be someone who I thought I should be. Living by someone else's shoulds can turn life into what feels like a series of obligations, of boxes to tick, of milestones to achieve. And when that happens, even the success that we achieve can start to feel strangely empty and unfulfilling. So you might achieve something you once thought you wanted and still feel like something is missing. When we build our lives around shoulds, we end up living somebody else's version of success rather than our own. And this isn't supposed to be a criticism of the people who shape those expectations for you. I'm not here to criticize my parents, my teachers, my mentors. They often passed on the beliefs that made sense to them in their own time and context. But of course the world has changed, and so have we, which means we get to revisit those assumptions, those expectations, those shoulds. We get to ask ourselves, is this actually what I want? Or is this just what I thought I was supposed to want? Is this me, or is this a should? When you start stripping away the shoulds, something really interesting happens. You begin to realise that success doesn't have to look the same for everybody. For some people, success might be financial freedom, and that's a phrase I hear bandied around a lot at the moment, and one that I use myself. For others, it might be time, for example, time freedom, time to spend with family, time to travel, time to explore creative passions. For some, success might mean building a meaningful or heart-led business that helps other people. For someone else, it might mean living a quieter, simpler life that prioritises peace and well-being over income. Success could be so many different things. Freedom, creativity, impact, joy, connection, flexibility, literally anything you want it to be. Your personal success might be the ability to wake up in the morning and feel like your life makes sense to you. Your version of success might be waking up in the morning and being so excited to jump out of bed and start your day because you love what you do. Or your personal success might be the ability to wake up every morning and spend time at home with your family, with your children, and to be 100% present for them. The important thing here is that none of these definitions are better than others. None of them are right or wrong. They're just different. Different to what we thought we should do, think, feel for most of our lives. And that's a really big shift in perspective. Which is why one of the most powerful questions we can ask ourselves is this: what actually makes me feel alive? Not what looks impressive, like your car, your house, a fancy job title or a big salary. Not what will make other people proud, like our parents or our friends. But what genuinely brings me energy. Because the things that make you feel most alive often hold the clues about what success might look like for you. And importantly, the things that keep us feeling most alive are the most sustainable for us throughout our lifetimes. So once you begin noticing the shoulds, you can start to gently replace them with something that feels much more honest and aligned to you. Instead of asking yourself questions like, what should I be doing with my life? You might ask instead, what do I want more of in my life? more creativity, more freedom, more meaningful work, more time for the people and things you care about. This shift from should to want might feel small initially, but it's incredibly powerful because it brings the focus back to you, back to your values, to your energy, and to your priorities. And if you are someone who's thinking about a bigger, more substantial shift, perhaps starting a business or exploring a creative project or simply designing your life a little differently, then this question becomes even more important because times will be tough and you'll need to know what it is that aligns with you to sustain you on those more difficult days. The most sustainable version of success is the one that feels aligned with who you are, not who you thought you had to become. So before we finish today, I'd like to leave you with a question to reflect on, and you might want to journal on this later or simply just sit with it for a moment. The question is this: where am I still living by someone else's definition of success? And what version of success would feel more aligned to me? You don't need to be able to answer that today. Sometimes simply asking that question and giving yourself some space and time to reflect on it for a little while is enough to begin shifting those ideas. So where am I still living by someone else's definition of success? And what version of success would feel more aligned to me? Thank you so much for being here. If this episode resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. You can let me know on our new Instagram account, which is @thepurposefulshift. If you found this episode valuable, please share this episode with someone who might also be questioning what success looks like in their life. Next week, I've got a special guest episode for you featuring the lovely Sue Tansley, who has moved away from a teaching career to follow her passion for art. In our conversation, we explore Sue's journey and also touch on a few of those shoulds and versions of success which can influence our choices. Until then, take good care of yourself and keep listening to that quiet nudge inside. I'll see you soon.